Hi guys, welcome to Digital TechJoint. I hope everybody is doing good and you guys are really enjoying the educational videos that are uploaded in this channel. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can send an email with an attachment using SMTP details that you have received while you have purchased a hosting plan from any of the custom domain providers. Now, when I say domain registration providers means I mean to say like host Qatar, like there is HostGator, and these are the people who provide the domain name as well as hosting with an email plan. Then there is something called Namecheap. So these even they provide you with the domain name and hosting plan. Then there is obviously GoDaddy. So these are some of the examples that I'm listing out. Now this all providers provide you to buy a domain, and along with the domain they also help you to buy the hosting, which comes with an also a plan for emails. Now when you want to send an email, they also provide you with a plan, and they also provide you with SMTP details. Now we are going to use those SMTP details and send an email from our application. Now typically all these domain providers or hosting providers provide a standard SMTP details that I'll cover while I am doing a practical session of sending email with an attachment using ASP.NET MVC application. So guys, let's jump into our Visual Studio 2022. I'm using Visual Studio 2022 with a preview version, preview 2.0, which is the latest one. So here I'm going to create new project and select MVC application, send email. Okay, this is a demo. This is a solution name and the project name. I'll just untick configure for HTTPS. I'm selecting .NET version 8.0 and I'm clicking on create button. So this is a project loaded, and we are going to create a simple form where we can enter the from date to date, subject line and then the mail body along with the option to select the attachment. Before we proceed, we will create a model class just to pass information between our view to controller. So let me right click on the model and say add a class called email entity. Okay, and here I'll have some basic properties defined. So the first one will be string, and this will be from email address, and I'm going to copy this, and this will be to email address, and then subject line and body and the URL. So this will be our email subject, or you can also write subject, and then this will be our email body message. This will be a URL. So here we have attachment, we can say attachment URL, and this will be not compulsory. So here I'm just going to say validate never, because email attachment can be optional. So this is the property I have defined. Now let's create the view. So we are going to use a default view. So inside under the views folder there is home, and under home there is index. Similarly for we have the default home controller. So we are going to use the default and create the form. So here I'm going to double click on index and I remove this. First I'm going to use email entity. Okay, and I'm going to create a simple form that will enable a user to enter the values. So I'll create a div class, okay, and this will be a card and shadow border 0. This will be a main div, and then inside the main div we'll have one div for title, card header, and this will be gray color, and this will be I'm adding a gradient effect to it. Inside this we'll have one more div class, and this will be what row, sorry, this will be row, and inside that we'll have div class which should be called 12 and text center. And here it will be H2 send email. Okay, so this is an header. So this becomes our first div, and then inside this we will have one more div, and this will actually have the form fields card. This will be our body with padding 2. Okay, now inside this we are going to add our controls. So this will be form method post, and here inside that we are going to add div class call 12, and inside that we are going to have a label which will say from email and input ASP for. We are going to take the helper, and this will be from email address, and class form control. Okay, so this is the first field, and then we are going to copy this and second and third. So this will be from, and this will be to email address. This will be our subject line. This will be our mail body, message body, email message body. So this completes the form, and now we will actually add the buttons to it. And we need to also add an attachment, so I'll just add one more tag for attachment. I'll just copy paste, and this will be select attachment or select file. This will be attachment URL, but this will not be an input, this will be type file. So this will be your input, this will be type, and this will be file, and it will also have a carrier name which will be used while we are fetching this file, which will be, I'm calling it as a posted file. And after that I'm going to add a BR tag and then add the buttons. So this will be another row, and then we will have div class. We'll divide it into two sections, 6, and this will have input button type submit. This will be class btn primary. This will say send email. Okay, now, and we can have one more button which will say cancel or reset or something like that. So we'll work on this button later, because as of now this is not so important. So we'll just won't add anything over here. Let's run this project and see the form. Here you can see a simple form is there. We have from email address, from email to email. So I think so I've just not changed, so I'm just going back to the design. This is from email, this is to email. This is your subject line, and then this is your message. Okay, and then this is select file. This is, I'm just clicking on the auto reload over here, and then coming back to our form, and we should be able to see. So you are able to see the updated one. Okay, so if you click on this, you can, it sees that you are able to also select the file as well. Now what I also noticed that email subject message body is looking like a text box, because obviously I've taken in a text box, so it should be a text area so that we'll be able to enter more message in our body. Right now when you run the project, you see that you are getting a single row to enter your message, which is generally not the case. Let us modify the content. So here we come to the message body, and it's just change the input to text area. And now when we say text area, then we also have to specify the rows and columns. So rows is 5 and calls is around 20. So let's run the project now. Okay, so there's some issue. Let me just check. It should not be displaying this. Let's go to design view, text area, message, rows, column. Let's click on auto reload and refresh. Yes, so since it's a text area, we need a closing tag as well, separately. So I did that, and now we are able to see it's properly displaying email to subject message. Now you can enter the and select the body. So this is a very simple form we have designed. Now let's start coding and actually implement the actual code so that we are able to send the email. So here what we're going to do is that, as I mentioned, whenever you register any domain and buy the hosting, you can also buy the email plan. And once you buy the email plan, you will get certain parameters that you can use that into the application to send an email. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to app setting and first configure those required parameters in my app setting, which I'll retrieve in my code to dynamically fetch it from the app setting and send an email. So let's create a configuration setting called email config. So this is my email config, and this will have the following settings. So we typically need your host. So this will call it old host, and then this will have the host name. So these values depend upon your like mail, your host name.com. So when I say your host, means when you buy a domain, for example you buy a domain saying mydomain.com. So your site is registered as mydomain.com. So www.mydomain.com, your page opens. So your my domain is your host name. So typically most of the time whenever you buy a hosting and according to you buy an email plan, your host will be always mail dot your host name, that is mydomain.com. But this can vary. So this can vary. If you go to GoDaddy, they might give you a separate no host name for sending email, or if you go to a Namecheap, they can give you separate email, or if you go to Ostgaard, you can give it. So you can fetch all this information from your C panel, that is your control panel, wherever you are buying the hosting. Okay, so here is my hosting. This is a dummy hosting. I will replace this once I will show you how the mail goes. Then we require the port. So typically this will be my port. Say this will be 26. So it will be my port number. And then after that we need username. Obviously every SMTP needs a username and password. So this is my username, my host username, and then finally we'll also need password. So this will be my hosting password. Okay, So these are the information required typically for sending SMTP, no, sending a mail using SMTP. So let me just retrieve this parameters into my code. So let's go to home controller and let's create a method called send email. Public I actionable send email, and now this email will take email entity because we are passing obj email parameters, and then since it will also upload files, I need to add iForm file, and this is the posted file. So this is a mail that I'm going to send it, and this will return view, and this will go back to our index. So first thing we're going to do is that retrieve those parameters from app settings. So in order to fetch the values, I'm going to define a variable called where my app config, and here I'm going to say new configuration builder, new configuration builder, and dot add JSON. New configuration binder, it's builder, it's not binder, it's builder. Okay, add JSON file, and here I'm going to name my app setting JSON file. So here just click it F2 and then come back over here and paste it so that you ensure that you're not making any mistake. JSON, so this is a JSON file, and dot build. So now my app config represents the entire app JSON file. Now once this is done, I can declare the variables and fetch their values. So I say where username, and this will be my app config dot get value string. Here you need to specify your first label, so you say email config and then call the username. So if you go back to your app setting, you can see email config is the main header, and inside that we have these parameters. That is the reason I mentioned email config and then the username. Similarly, I'll fetch other parameters like host, password, then host, and the username. So here I'm going to say first I fetch the username, then I fetch the password. Let me keep username capital username, and this will be password, and this will be host, sorry, and here we'll have host, and then we'll have port. So let's run this application now. In order to run it, what I'm going to do is that go to our index razor page, and here we'll have to mention the action. So I'm saying ASP action, this send email. Also one more thing you need to remember is that since we are sending email, so view has to be able to post the attachment. In order to work with attachments in the view, you'll have to also add tag called en type, and then say multi-part form data. This is very important because if you don't add this tag, whenever you're selecting a file and posting it to the controller won't have the file that you have posted. So first is the action. Now we be redirected to this action when you submit the send email. So let's first check whether we are able to fetch the records from the app setting. So we are getting an error over here. Let me just say app setting JSON. Just let's close this. Click on home, configuration, a new configuration builder JSON and app settings, which looks good. Let us run the application once again and see what exactly the error is saying. We'll just expand this, and it says inner exception is app. Okay, I think so. There is some mistake in the JSON file, app setting JSON file, and here we have so here you can see this is an indication. Yes, a comma is missing. That is why we are facing that issue. So we need to add a comma over here. That was the main issue. Let's, and this time I think so it should work definitely. Yeah. Now what we'll do is that we'll just add values. It's not validated, so it can be anything right now. And let's click any attachment and let's click on send email. Now this action is called send email, and here first we are defining the add JSON file. The object is created. There's 10 sessions. Now first I'm fetching the username, so let me just say yes, it is fetched, my host name, and then we are setting the password, and then the host name, and then finally the port. So everything is getting fetched now from a app JSON file in the code. So now let's write the code, actual code to send an email. Double click on the home controller. Now once we have all fetched all the values, so here all the values are getting fetched from here. So once we have the values over here, let's actually try to um, create a mail object and send the mail. So we need to say mail message, and this will be a message object. Okay, now this message object, that is message dot from address, and this is already fetched. So you can also specify the form address in your app setting, because form address is will be fixed. So here I'm going to write, also mention the form address. So this is from email, and here I'm going to mention the actual email from where the mail will go. So it will be contact@ Digital TechJoint.com. So this is the actual email address from where the mail will actually go. So let's go to the control and from email and fetch this. So we fetch this, and now we are going to supply that over here. Then message to, so this will get from the email entity object. So email property, and this is to address, and this will be to string. Okay. So this is not equals to, we can't assign it, so basically we'll have to pass it this way. There is still some message from add. Equals to new mail address, and then we add it. So this is how we assign the property. Similarly, to will be add, so here it will be add, and then we pass this parameters. Okay, similarly we'll have subject, message dot subject, and this will be parameter dot subject. Then we'll have something as a type, that is body HTML, and we say true, it's an HTML format. Then we'll have the actual message body dot equals to obj email dot message body, finally we need to add that attachment. So for attachment we are going to say message dot attachments dot add and say new attachments, and we are getting the value from this variable posted high form file posted file. So we're going to say posted file dot open read stream and the file name. So posted file dot file name. So this is creating a stream object and adding that to the attachment. Now here after this, once the values and everything are set, we are actually going to call the SMTP details and send the mail. For that we are going to use try catch to catch this exception. So this will be a catch and this will be an exception, and then we'll also have to have a finally tag for clearing up the resources if any, as a good practice. Finally, and we say, so this is our structure for try catch. Here inside that we are going to actually call SMTP client. This will be our mail client. Okay, and here SMTP client will take an host, so we'll pass the host variable which is already there captured over here. So this is the SMTP client that is first been called. Host does not exist because we actually, so I'm going to copy this, try and push it over here. Sorry, we don't have to do that. That was a, this is the right way. Sorry. So this was the host name. So we have passed the host name to it. Now we are going to say this is a typical standard code that will be used across. So we are going to say mail client dot use default credential. In my case it is false. After that I'm going to say mail client dot credentials, so new system dot net dot network credentials, and here I'm going to pass the username password, which is obviously captured here, username password. Okay, after that it will ask for the host, so basically we need to provide the host. So I'll provide the host over here. Then mail client dot port, and I'll be providing the port. And finally we're going to say mail client dot send, and we are going to pass the message object here. This is a message object over here, and we'll use finally object, and we'll dispose over here irrespectively if there is an error or not. We are going to use dispose and close this. Now in order to use finally your scope of variable of main client, it is should be above the try object. So here I need to declare the variable over here so that I can use it in over here. So here I can use mail client dispose. You see, you'll have to do that, and here it's giving an error because port is a string. So here I'm going to change it to integer. So this should work now. Yes, so this is work. So this is the base of a code for sending the mail. Sometimes depending upon from where you have taken the hosting, sometimes you might have to pass enable SSL equals to true or false. In my case, I'm not going to pass the variable, so I'll just comment it. Just I want to tell you. So sometimes you need to do the toggling. In some cases, you need to use default credentials to true, so that permutation and clause that you need to manage basis from where you have purchased your domain and hosting. So this is the code that I've written. Now I'll just show the code once again and then change the values to the actual values before I show you how the mail will be sent. So here I've just run that application. Now I'm going to write So basically, we also don't need the from email address because we are actually from email address will be always constant. So in that case, what I'm going to do is that remove this from email address from here, and in my entity class, I'll just make sure that validate never is tagged to it so that we don't face any error. And now, so now you can say two emails. So I'm going to say digital techjoint at the gmail.com. This is my subject. Hello, hello subscribers. And here I'm going to select a file. I'm going to say image file and click on send. So now let us go through each and every. So first we define the app setting object. Now we fetch the username, password, host, port, and the email. Then we create a mail message object where we pass the from address. So my from address is contact at the digitaltechjoint.com. Then the email address which is passed from the Razor page view, it is digitaltechjoint at the gmail.com. Then the subject and the mail message body is all passed. Here it is attaching the attachment that user selected. After that, I defined the SMTP client object. Now client object takes use default credential false. This is the username password that will be paused. This is the host and this is the port number 26. And finally, when I click on send, it will send the message. Now in order to send the message, I will have to enter the valid credentials over here, and then I'll run the code again. Guys, I've updated the actual settings and username password in my app setting. I'm going to run the code now, and we are going to actually send an email. I'll just run it again. Okay, so I'm going to add the actual values digitaltechjoint@gmail.com. I sending video on sending email with attachment, custom SMTP details. Please do subscribe and like our videos. This is my subject. Here I'm going to select an attachment file. So I'm going to select an image, and now I'm going to click on send. So this will have all the values, and now I'm going to proceed and click on send. You see it is successfully sent. Now once it goes to the finally tag, it will actually dispose the email object, and then it will return back to our index. So here I'm not showing here that email is sent successfully, that I'll show to you. But before that, let's go to our mailbox and see whether we have received the email. Guys, you can see contact video on sending email with attachment successfully come into my inbox, and I'm able to see the image and also able to see the message. Okay, and from where the mail has come. So I've successfully sent the mail. It has come to my inbox, and our code is working now. Now we'll just add one small piece of code to inform user that the mail is successfully sent. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the controller, and once the mail is sent, we're going to create a viewback dot message, and here we're going to say email sent successfully. So this is a confirmation message, and here if there is any failure, we need to capture those failures over here and say that exception, we put through that exception. Also you can log that exception in your file. And in my previous video, if you go to my channel over here, I have already added one video which shows you how to log exception in your text file. So you can use the same video and write the code over here in the exception block so that you can see that exception in your text file. Here for now I'm going to just say failed sending email. Okay, uh, so this is how you need to send, and now then we simply call this in our view. So here I'm going to write, just mention one tag div, and I'm just going to put at the rate sign and print that message over here. and you can just change the formatting. You can see h3. Yeah, so that's it. So let's run the project now again. So I'm going to send the mail again, this time I message body, and I'm going to select the attachment and click on send. I'm going to remove the breakpoint and run the application. Here you can see email sent successfully. Okay, so this is how we can use our code, SMTP code, and .NET provided libraries to send email using our custom hosting or domain plan that is provided by your hosting providers. So with this we complete the session. Please, guys, please do subscribe and like my channel. Please do share the channel link with your friend, family, and colleagues, and help us to grow our digital tech joint channel. Thank you so much for your time.